1 year later, Una stood on the observation deck of the United Space Station. Through the massive window, she could see ships of every kind floating in the darkness. Human ships with their sharp angles and bright lights. Valkyrie ships with their curved shapes and soft glow. They moved together in perfect harmony, like a dance that had been practiced for centuries, but it had only been a year. 1 year since the hairpin fell. 1 year since everything changed. The door behind her opened. She did not need to turn around to know who it was. She could smell the forest scent of his fur. "Hairpin," she said. "You came." "I would not miss this day," the chieftain replied. He walked to stand beside her, his massive form reflected in the window. "The anniversary of peace. The day we stopped being strangers." Una smiled. "Has it really been a year?" "It feels like yesterday. And also like forever." "Time is strange that way," Hairpin agreed. "So much has happened. So much has changed." He was right. In just 1 year, the galaxy had transformed. The prisoners had been released from both sides. Trade routes had opened. Scientists shared discoveries. Doctors shared cures. Children learned each other's languages in school. There had been problems, of course. Just as Una had predicted, some humans could not accept peace. They had attacked Valkyrie ships. They had planted bombs. They had tried to restart the war, but they had failed. Because the Valkyrie did not fight back. They captured the attackers gently and handed them to human authorities. They rebuilt what was destroyed. They answered hate with patience. "We are strange," one Valkyrie warrior had said when asked about this. "We were warriors once, the best in the galaxy. But the Skywalker showed us another way. Now we are builders, healers, teachers. It is harder than fighting, but it is better." On the Valkyrie side, there had been resistance too. Old warriors who felt lost without enemies. Young ones who had been raised on stories of human evil. They struggled to accept that everything they knew was changing, but the prophecy held them together. The blood oath could not be broken. And slowly, even the most stubborn Valkyrie began to see the truth. Humans were not monsters. They were just another kind of people. Strange-looking, soft and hairless, but capable of kindness, capable of love. The door opened again. More people entered the observation deck. Human diplomats in formal clothes. Valkyrie elders in their ceremonial cloaks. Scientists and artists and children of both species. And at the front of the group, running as fast as his legs could carry him, was Minho. He was bigger now. Almost as tall as Una. His fur had darkened from light brown to deep gold. He looked more like an adult. But when he smiled, he was still the same curious cub who had first approached her in the forest. "Una!" he shouted. He crashed into her with a hug that nearly knocked her over. "I missed you." Una laughed and hugged him back. "I missed you too. How is your training going?" Minho stepped back proudly. "I am the best in my class. My teacher says I will be a great diplomat someday. Like you." "He talks about you constantly," Hairpin said with a hint of amusement in his voice. "His teachers are quite tired of hearing about the Skywalker." Una ruffled the fur on top of Minho's head. "I am honored. But you should not be like me. You should be like yourself. The universe does not need another Una. It needs its first Minho." The young Valkyrie thought about that. Then he nodded seriously. "I will be the best Minho that ever lived," he declared. "I believe you will." The observation deck was filling up now. This was the main event of the anniversary celebration. Leaders from both species would speak. Treaties would be signed. Promises would be renewed. But before all of that, there was one more tradition to complete. Elder Taiho stepped forward. He was using a cane now. His body was failing, but his eyes were still bright. His mind was still sharp.
1 year ago, he said, his voice echoing through the deck, we were enemies.
We looked at each other and saw monsters. We taught our children to hate. We spent our resources on weapons. We measured success by how many we killed. He paused. The room was silent.
Then a young woman dropped a hairpin.
And everything changed. Soft laughter rippled through the crowd. The story had become famous. Every child in the galaxy knew it. The Skywalker and her silver pin. The prophecy fulfilled by accident. Some say it was fate, Taiho continued. Some say it was luck. Some say it was the will of the spirits. I do not know which is true. Perhaps all of them. Perhaps none. But I know this. It does not matter how the change began. What matters is that we chose to accept it. We chose to believe that peace was possible. We chose to work for a better future. He turned to look at Yuna. The Skywalker gave us a gift. But we gave ourselves something too. We gave ourselves courage. The courage to put down our weapons. The courage to trust our enemies. The courage to admit we were wrong. Taiho bowed his old head. Today, we celebrate that courage. And we promise to keep it alive. Not just for us. For our children. For their children. For all the generations to come. The crowd erupted in applause. Howls mixed with cheers. Humans and Velkai stood side by side, celebrating together. Then it was Yuna's turn to speak. She walked to the front of the observation deck. Through the window behind her, the stars sparkled like a billion silver hairpins scattered across black velvet dot. She had prepared a speech. Long and formal and full of important words. But looking at the crowd, she decided to throw it away. When I came to Velros, she said, I was afraid. I expected to die. I thought the Velkai would kill me before I could speak a single word. She touched the silver hairpin in her hair. Her grandmother's gift. The pin that had changed everything. I did not believe in prophecy. I did not believe in fate. I believed only in hard work and careful planning. But sometimes, the universe has other ideas. Sometimes, the smallest thing can change everything. A kind word. A chance meeting. A hairpin falling at just the right moment. She looked at Minho, at Hairpin, at Taiho, at all the faces, human and Velkai, watching her with hope in their eyes. We cannot control the universe, she said. We cannot plan for every possibility. But we can choose how to respond when the unexpected happens. When my hairpin fell, the Velkai could have ignored it. They could have said it was just an accident. But they chose to see it as an opportunity. They chose to believe in their own prophecy, even after 10,000 years of waiting. She took a deep breath. That is what makes peace possible. Not weapons or walls or treaties, but the choice to believe. The choice to hope. The choice to look at a stranger and see a friend. She raised her hand. In her palm was the silver hairpin. 1 year ago, I offered this pin to the Velkai as a promise of peace. Today, I offer it again. Not to the Velkai alone, but to everyone. Human and Velkai together. A promise that we will never forget what we have built. A promise that we will protect it, no matter what challenges come. She held the pin up high so everyone could see. This is not just silver. This is hope. This is love. This is the future we have chosen. The crowd roared. The howling and cheering was so loud that the observation deck seemed to shake. Minho pushed through the crowd and ran to Yuna's side. He grabbed her hand and held it tight. I told you, he said, his voice barely audible above the noise. I told you I would carry you in my heart. Yuna squeezed his paw. And I carry you in mine, always. Later that night, after the speeches and ceremonies were done, Yuna stood alone on the observation deck. The crowd had gone to celebrate.
She could hear music and laughter in the distance. Hairpin found her there, staring out at the stars. "You should be celebrating," he said. "I am," Una replied, "in my own way." They stood in comfortable silence for a while. Two creatures who had once been enemies, now friends, perhaps even family. "The humans have a saying," Una said eventually. "They say that one person cannot change the world." "Do you believe that?" Una shook her head. "Not anymore. One person can change everything. One small action. One moment of courage. One hairpin." She turned to look at the chieftain. "But here's the truth I have learned. One person can start to change, but it takes everyone to finish it. I dropped the pin, but you chose to believe. Taiho chose to remember. Minho chose to trust. Every Valkai and every human who accepted peace, they all made a choice." She smiled. "The pin was just the beginning. You all are the real heroes." Hairpin made his rumbling laugh sound. "You are too humble, Skywalker. But perhaps that is why the prophecy chose you. A proud person would have kept the glory for themselves. You share it with everyone." "There is more than enough glory," Una said. "Plenty for everyone." She looked back out at the stars. Somewhere out there were more worlds, more species, more strangers waiting to become friends. "What do you think happens next?" Hairpin asked. Una thought about it. About all the possibilities. All the futures that might unfold. "I think we keep going," she said. "We keep building. We keep hoping. We keep choosing peace, even when it is hard. And someday, maybe, we will look back at this moment and laugh. We will tell our grandchildren about the silly little hairpin that stopped a war. And they will not believe us. Because by then, peace will be so normal that they cannot imagine anything else." Hairpin nodded slowly. "That is a good future." "Yes," Una agreed. "It is." She touched the silver pin in her hair one last time. Then she turned away from the window and walked toward the sound of music and celebration. The war was over. The future was just beginning. The communication room was full of strange machines. They hummed and clicked and glowed with soft lights. Una had seen advanced technology before, but this was different. The Valkai built things in curves and spirals, not straight lines. Everything looked alive somehow, like it had grown instead of being made. A young Valkai named Jisoo operated the machines. She was smaller than the warriors, with silver-gray fur and gentle eyes. She had been studying human languages for years, hoping that one day she could talk to Skywalkers in peace. Now that day had come. "I have found your ship's signal," Jisoo said. Her human words were careful and slow, but clear. "I can connect you now." "Thank you," Una said. The screen flickered. Then a face appeared. It was Captain Dawn, the commander of Una's ship. He was an older man with gray hair and tired eyes. When he saw Una, those tired eyes went wide. "Una!" he shouted. "You are alive. We have been trying to reach you for hours. What happened? Are you hurt? Are you a prisoner?" "I am fine," Una said quickly. "I am not a prisoner. I am a guest." "A guest?" Captain Dawn looked confused. "The Valkai are your hosts?" "Yes, and Captain, something has happened. Something wonderful. I need you to listen carefully." She told him everything. The hairpin, the prophecy, the cubs kneeling, the howling, the book. She spoke for a long time, trying to explain something that still felt like a dream. When she finished, Captain Dawn was silent. His face had gone pale. "That is impossible," he finally said. "The Valkai just gave up? Because you dropped some jewelry?" "It was not just jewelry to them," Una said. "It was the fulfillment of their most sacred prophecy. They have been waiting for this moment for 10,000 years. And you believe them?"
This could be a trap, a trick to make us lower our guard. Yuna shook her head. I have looked into their eyes, Captain. I have seen cubs kneel before me. I have heard warriors cry. This is not a trick. This is real. Captain Doan rubbed his face with both hands. He looked like a man trying to wake up from a strange dream. The council will never believe this, he said. They will think you have been, I do not know, hypnotized, controlled. They will want proof. Then I will give them proof, Yuna said. The Volkai are willing to open their borders. They will release all human prisoners. They will share food and medicine. They will do whatever it takes to show that the war is over. And what do they want in return? Yuna paused. That was a good question. She looked at Hairpin, who was standing behind her, watching the screen with curious eyes. What do the Volkai want? She asked him. Hairpin thought for a moment. Then he stepped forward so that Captain Doan could see him clearly. We want only one thing, Hairpin said. His voice was strong and clear. We want to know our neighbors. For 50 years, we have fought humans without understanding them. We attacked because we were afraid. We killed because we did not know another way. But now the blood wars are over. Now we want to learn. To trade. To share stories and songs. To watch our cubs grow up in a galaxy without fear. Captain Doan stared at the chieftain. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Captain Doan did something unexpected. He laughed. Not a mean laugh or a scared laugh. A real laugh. A laugh of relief. After all these years, he said. After all the battles and bombs and death. It ends with a hairpin and a wish for peace. The universe has a sense of humor, Yuna said with a small smile. It certainly does. Captain Doan straightened in his seat. I will contact the council. I will tell them what you told me. But Yuna, be careful. There are people on our side who have made careers out of this war. They will not give up easily. I know, Yuna said. But they cannot fight against hope. Not forever. The screen went dark. The call was over. But the work was just beginning. Hairpin put a large paw on Yuna's shoulder. It was heavy, but gentle. Your captain is wise, he said. He understands that peace is harder than war. Anyone can destroy. Building requires patience. There will be resistance, Yuna said. On both sides. People who cannot let go of their hate. Then we must give them something better to hold on to, Hairpin said. Hope is a small thing, but it is strong. It can survive in the darkest places. We must plant it everywhere. They walked back to the main hall. The cubs were still there, playing now instead of kneeling. They chased each other around the stone pillars. They tumbled and growled and laughed. They had already forgotten about prophecies and blood wars. They were just two children, happy to be alive. Minho ran up to Yuna. He was out of breath, and his fur was messy. Skywalker, he said, will you play with us? Yuna smiled. I am not sure I know your games. I will teach you. Minho grabbed her hand with his small paw. His claws were sharp, but he was careful not to scratch her. Come, come. Yuna looked at Hairpin. The chieftain nodded. Go, he said. There will be time for politics later. Right now, let the cubs see that humans can laugh. So Yuna played. She did not understand all the rules. The cubs moved too fast for her. They jumped and rolled and did things her human body could not do. But she tried. She ran with them. She fell down and got back up. She laughed when they knocked her over. The adult Velke watched. At first they were tense. They had never seen a human play before. They had only seen humans fight. But slowly, they began to relax. Some of them even smiled. Elder Taiho sat beside Hairpin, watching the scene. The prophet was right, Taiho said quietly. She said the Skywalker would bring more than peace. She said the Skywalker would bring joy. I was not sure I believed that part, Hairpin admitted. I thought peace was enough. But look at them. Look at the cubs. Look at her. They are happy. Truly happy. When was the last time our people were truly happy? Taiho closed his eyes. I cannot remember. Perhaps never in my lifetime. Then this is worth more than any treaty, Hairpin said. This is why we fight to protect our young. Not so they can become warriors. So they can become happy. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, more Velkai arrived. They came from other parts of the forest. They had heard the howling. They had heard that the prophecy was fulfilled. They came to see the Skywalker with their own eyes. Yuna was surrounded by curious faces. Giant wolf-like creatures who had been her enemies just hours ago. Now they looked at her with wonder, with hope, with something like love. A female Velkai named Yuri approached her. She was carrying something wrapped in soft cloth. I made this for you, Yuri said shyly. It is traditional. When someone joins our family, we give them a cloak. She unwrapped the cloth. Inside was a beautiful cloak made of woven fibers. It was colored in shades of green and blue, like the forest and sky of Velros. Small silver beads were sewn into the fabric. They sparkled like stars. Yun took the cloak with trembling hands. It is beautiful, she whispered. Thank you. Yuri helped her put it on. It was heavy but warm. It smelled like the forest. Like home. Now you are one of us, Yuri said. Now you are Velkai. Yuna felt tears running down her face. She did not try to stop them. She was a diplomat. She was supposed to be calm and professional. But in this moment, she was just a person who had been given a gift beyond price. She had come to this planet hoping to end a war. She had ended up finding a family. The cubs gathered around her, pressing their warm bodies against her legs. Minho grabbed her hand again. Will you stay forever? He asked. Will you be my friend forever? Yuna knelt down so she could look into his golden eyes. I cannot stay forever, she said gently. I have duties, responsibilities, people who need me. Minho's ears drooped. Oh, but, Yuna continued, I will come back, often, and wherever I go, I will carry you with me. In here, she touched her heart. That is what friends do. They stay connected, even when they are apart. Minho thought about that. Then he smiled his sharp-toothed smile. I will carry you too, he said. In here. He touched his own furry chest. Around them, the Velkai howled softly. Not the loud, wild howls of before. These were gentle, loving, like a lullaby. The first day of peace was ending. But Yuna knew it was just the beginning. There would be hard days ahead. Difficult negotiations. Stubborn people on both sides. Old wounds that would take time to heal. But tonight, under the strange stars of Velros, surrounded by creatures who had been enemies and were now friends, Yuna allowed herself to believe that everything would be okay. She had dropped a hairpin and changed the universe. Now she had to help that change survive. The howling lasted for a long time. Yuna stood still and let the sound wash over her. It was beautiful in a strange way, sad and happy at the same time. Like the cry of creatures finally setting down a heavy weight they had carried for too long. When the howling stopped, the silence felt different. Before, the silence had been tense and dangerous. Now it was calm, peaceful, like the forest itself was breathing easier. Hairpin rose to his feet. The other Velkai followed. They moved differently now. Their shoulders were not so stiff. Their eyes were not so hard. It is done, Hairpin said. The prophecy is complete. The blood wars are over.
Yuna was still holding the hairpin. She did not know what to do with it. Should she put it back in her hair? Should she give it to the Valkai? It had become so much more than just a piece of jewelry. Elder Taiho approached her. He walked slowly, his old bones creaking. But there was a light in his eyes that had not been there before. "You must keep the silver," he said, as if reading her mind. "It is yours. It was always meant to be yours. The prophecy chose you." "I did not choose any of this," Yuna said softly. "I came here to talk, to negotiate. I did not know about your prophecy." "That is what makes it real," Taiho said. "For 10,000 years, Valkai have tried to fulfill the words of our prophet. We dropped silver coins, silver knives, silver jewelry. We did everything we could think of. But it never worked, because we were trying to force it. True prophecy cannot be forced. It must happen naturally, without intention." Yuna thought about that. It made a strange kind of sense. If anyone could fulfill a prophecy just by going through the motions, it would not be special. It would not mean anything. The whole point was that it had to be real, accidental, true. "Your grandmother," Taiho said. "The one who gave you the silver pin. Tell me about her." Yuna was surprised by the question. She had not mentioned her grandmother to anyone here. How did Taiho know? She decided not to ask. Maybe the Valkai could smell memories. Maybe the prophecy told them things. She was learning that there was much about this world she did not understand. Her name was Sumi, Yuna said. She was a simple woman, a teacher. She taught children how to read and write. She always believed in peace. She hated war. When I was young, she told me that words could change the world. That if I learned to speak well and listen carefully, I could help people understand each other. Taiho nodded slowly. A wise woman. She gave you more than silver. She gave you the tools to use it. Yuna felt tears forming in her eyes. Her grandmother had died 5 years ago. She had never gotten to see Yuna become a diplomat. She had never known that her granddaughter would travel to the stars. But somehow, in some strange way, she had still been part of this moment. I wish she could see this, Yuna whispered. Perhaps she can, Taiho said. The spirits of the wise do not disappear. They travel with those they loved. Yuna was not sure if she believed that, but she wanted to. Oh, how she wanted to. The cubs were coming into the clearing now. They were no longer hiding. They no longer looked afraid. They looked curious, excited. They wanted to see the Skywalker up close. The brave one Minho was at the front. He walked right up to Yuna and stared at her with wide golden eyes. You are small, he said. His voice was high and young. The story said Skywalkers were giants with fire in their hands. Yuna smiled. The stories were wrong. We are not giants. We do not have fire in our hands. We are just people. Different from you, but still just people. Minho tilted his head. But you ended the blood wars. Only someone very powerful could do that. I did not end anything, Yuna said. The Valkai ended the blood wars. You all decided to stop fighting. I just helped you remember your promise. Minho thought about that. Then he smiled. It was a strange sight, seeing a wolf-like creature smile. But it was also wonderful. His teeth were sharp, but his eyes were kind. I like you, Skywalker, he said. Will you stay with us? Before Yuna could answer, Hairpin stepped forward. There is much to discuss, he said. The prophecy is fulfilled, but the work is not done. We must tell all Valkai what has happened here. We must send messages to every clan, every tribe, every ship in the stars. They must know that the blood wars are over. And the humans? Yuna asked. I must tell my people too. They will not understand at first. They will think it is a trick. Then
We will show them it is not, Hairpin said. We will open our borders. We will share our food and water. We will heal their wounded and return their prisoners. Actions speak louder than words. Yuna felt hope growing in her chest. This was what she had dreamed of. Not just a ceasefire. Not just a temporary peace. But a real change. A new beginning. There will be problems, she said. Not everyone on my side wants peace. Some have lost too much. They are angry. They want revenge. We have such people too, Hairpin admitted. Warriors who have fought their whole lives. They do not know how to live without an enemy, but they are bound by the prophecy. They cannot break the oath. They will have to find a new purpose. And if they refuse, Hairpin's eyes grew hard for a moment. Then they will answer to me. The prophecy is not a suggestion. It is law, the most sacred law we have. Any Valkyrie who breaks it will be cast out, alone, forever. Yuna nodded. It was harsh, but she understood. Peace could not survive if people were free to ignore it whenever they wanted. There had to be consequences. I should contact my ship, she said. Let them know I am safe. And tell them what happened. Your ship is still in orbit, Hairpin said. We have been watching it. They are worried about you. Yuna was not surprised. She had been on the planet for hours now. Her crew must be going crazy with fear. They probably thought she was dead. May I use your communication system? She asked. You may, Hairpin said. But first, there is something you must see. Something important. He turned and walked toward a door at the back of the stone building. Yuna followed. The cubs followed her, keeping close like a pack of eager puppies. They seemed to have adopted her. Behind the door was a long hallway. The walls were covered with more carvings. Stories and pictures. Yuna saw Velkai hunting, fighting, building. She saw great ships flying through space. She saw battles and celebrations and funerals. At the end of the hallway was another room. This one was smaller than the meeting hall. In the center stood a pedestal made of black stone. And on the pedestal was a book. Not a digital tablet. Not a holographic display. An actual book made of paper and leather. It was very old. The pages were yellow. The cover was cracked. This is the Book of the Prophet, Hairpin said. It contains her original words, written by her own hand 10,000 years ago. Yuna stared at the book. 10,000 years. On Earth, humans had barely invented writing that long ago. But the Valkyrie had been building civilizations, writing prophecies, dreaming of the future. May I touch it? She asked. You must, Hairpin said. The book has been waiting for you. You are the first Skywalker to ever see it. You must add your name to its pages. Yuna approached the pedestal slowly. The cubs stayed back, watching with wide eyes. Even they understood how important this moment was. She reached out and touched the book. The leather was soft and warm, like living skin. She carefully opened it to the first page. The writing was in a language she could not read. Strange symbols that looked like claw marks. But she could feel the meaning somehow. The words seemed to flow into her mind without going through her eyes. Peace, hope, future, one, people under the stars. She turned the pages slowly. More prophecies, more promises, more dreams. Then she reached the last page with writing. After that, the pages were blank. There, Hairpin said, pointing. Write your name and the date, so that all future generations will know when the Skywalker came. Yuna looked around. I do not have anything to write with. Minho rushed forward. In his small paws, he held a pen made of bone. The tip was dark with ink. I brought it, he said proudly. I knew you would need it. Yuna took the pen from him. Thank you, Minho. She looked at the blank page.
Such a small space. But what she wrote here would be remembered for thousands of years. Maybe forever. She wrote carefully. Her name, the date, and one more thing. A message for the future. Today, strangers became family. May we never forget. She put down the pen. The ink dried quickly on the ancient paper. It was done. Behind her, the Valkyrie began to howl again. But this time, Una understood. They were not just celebrating. They were welcoming her. She was no longer a stranger. She was no longer an enemy. She was part of the story now. The silver hairpin hit the stone floor. The sound was small, just a tiny ring of metal against rock. But in that quiet room, it sounded like a bell. Una reached down to pick it up. She was embarrassed. This was supposed to be a serious meeting. She was supposed to look professional. Now her hair was falling loose around her face, and her grandmother's hairpin was rolling across the floor. But when she looked up, she forgot about embarrassment. She forgot about everything. Every Valkyrie in the room had frozen. Not just stopped moving. Frozen, like statues made of fur and muscle. Their eyes were wide. Their mouths hung open. Some of them had stopped breathing. Even Hairpin, the great chieftain, was frozen. His massive body was stiff. His bright eyes stared at the hairpin on the floor like it was a ghost. Una did not understand. She looked around the room, confused. What had she done? Was she in danger? Had she broken some rule she did not know about? Then she heard the sounds from outside. The cubs. They were making noises she had never heard before. High, keening sounds. Like crying. Like praying. She turned to look through the doorway. The cubs who had been hiding in the forest were now standing at the edge of the clearing. All of them. Maybe 30 or 40 young Valkyrie. And they were all staring at her. No, not at her. At the hairpin. One by one, the cubs began to kneel. They pressed their furry bodies to the ground. They put their heads down. Their ears went flat against their skulls. Una had seen Valkyrie attack. She had seen them fight. She had seen them kill. But she had never seen them kneel. The Valkyrie were proud creatures. They bowed to no one. Until now. What is happening? Una whispered. No one answered. The adult Valkyrie were still frozen. The cubs were still kneeling. The whole forest seemed to hold its breath. Then, slowly, Elder Taio began to move. He moved like a creature waking from a dream. He took one step toward Una, then another. His whole body was shaking. The prophecy, he whispered. His voice cracked. The ancient oath. What prophecy? Una asked. What are you talking about? Taio fell to his knees. The old Valkyrie, who had walked with such strength through the forest, was now kneeling before her like a cub. Tears ran from his yellow eyes. 1,000 generations, he said. We have waited 1,000 generations. Una felt fear crawling up her spine. She did not know what was happening. She did not know what she had done. But she knew it was something big. Something she could not take back. Please, she said. Please tell me what is going on. Hairpin finally moved. The chieftain rose from his seat. His body was still stiff, like he was fighting against himself. He walked around the stone table. Each step seemed to cost him great effort. He stopped in front of Una. He was so tall that she had to look straight up to see his face. His eyes were no longer cold. They were filled with something else. Something like wonder. Something like fear. Do you know what you have done? He asked. No, Una admitted. I just dropped my hairpin. It was an accident. Hairpin made a sound. It took Una a moment to realize he was laughing. But it was not a happy laugh. It was the laugh of someone who had just seen the impossible happen. An accident, he repeated. An accident that our people have tried to create for 10,000 years. He pointed at the hairpin. It still lay on the stone floor, shining in the blue crystal light. Silver, Hairpin said. Offered to stone. By a Skywalker. The words meant nothing to Una, but they meant everything to the Volkai. She could see it in their faces. She could hear it in the sounds the cubs were making outside. I do not understand, she said. Hairpin turned and walked to the wall. There, carved into the ancient stone, was a picture. Una had not noticed it before. It showed a figure standing before a group of Volkai. The figure was small, like a cub. It was holding something above its head, something that caught the light. The four of the Volkai were one people. We were many tribes, Hairpin said. We fought each other. We killed each other. For food, for land, for pride. The blood never stopped flowing. He touched the carving with one clawed hand. Then a prophet came. Her name has been lost to time, but her words have not. She told us that one day a Skywalker would come, a creature not of our world. This Skywalker would offer silver to stone, and when that happened, the blood wars would end forever. Una stared at the carving. Her heart was beating so fast she could feel it in her throat. That is why our ancestors united, Hairpin continued. They stopped fighting each other. They formed one people, all to prepare for the day when the prophecy would come true. But the war, Una said, the war between humans and Volkai, was our shame, Hairpin said. His voice was heavy with pain. We had sworn to end all blood wars. But when your kind came from the sky, we forgot our oath. We saw enemies instead of brothers. We chose violence instead of peace. He turned to face Una again. For 50 years, we have fought you. For 50 years, we have broken our most sacred promise. And in all that time, we have tried to fulfill the prophecy ourselves. We have dropped silver on stone 1,000 times, but it never worked. The prophecy said a Skywalker must do it. And we believe Skywalkers did not exist. Until I came, Una whispered. Until you came, Hairpin agreed. And dropped silver on stone. Without knowing. Without trying. Without understanding what it meant. Outside, the cubs were still kneeling. Inside, the elders had all dropped to their knees as well. Only Hairpin remained standing, but Una could see that he was struggling. His whole body wanted to kneel. The prophecy is fulfilled, Taiho said from the floor. The Skywalker has come. The blood wars must end. Una's mind was spinning. She had come here, hoping to negotiate a peace treaty. She had expected months of talks, years of careful diplomacy. She had expected to fight for every small agreement. But this was something else entirely. So the war is over? She asked. Just like that? No, Hairpin said. Not just like that. He finally let himself kneel. The great chieftain, the most powerful Volkai alive, knelt before a small human woman. The prophecy must be completed, he said. You did not just drop the silver. You must offer it, properly, with intention, with words. Una looked at the hairpin on the floor. Such a small thing. Such a simple thing. Her grandmother had given it to her when she was just a girl. She had said it would bring luck. Una had never really believed in luck. But standing here, in this ancient stone building, with alien creatures kneeling before her, she was starting to wonder. What must I do? She asked. Hairpin looked up at her. His eyes were wet. Pick up the silver. Hold it in your hands. And offer it to us. Offer peace. Mean it in your heart. And if I do this, the war will truly end? Every Volkai in the galaxy will know, Hairpin said. The prophecy binds us all. We cannot break an oath sealed by the Skywalker's offering. It would destroy everything we are. Una thought about all the people who had died. Human and Velkai both. Mothers and fathers. Children. Friends. All that pain. All that loss. And it could end with a hairpin. She bent down and picked up the silver pin. It felt warm in her hand, like it had been waiting for this moment. She did not know the words. She did not know the ritual. But she knew what she wanted. She wanted peace. Real peace. Not just an end to fighting, but a beginning of something new. She held out the hairpin in both hands. "I offer this silver to the Velkai people," she said. Her voice was steady. "I offer it as a promise. A promise that humans and Velkai will no longer be enemies. A promise that we will learn from each other, help each other, protect each other. I offer this silver, and I offer peace." The moment the words left her mouth, something happened. The cubs outside began to howl. Not angry howls. Not hunting howls. These were howls of joy. Howls of release. Howls that had been waiting 10,000 years to be sung. The adults joined in. Even Hairpin, the proud chieftain, lifted his head and howled. The sound filled the stone building. It echoed through the forest. It rose up into the green sky like a prayer finally answered. And Yuna stood in the middle of it all, holding a small silver hairpin, wondering how she had just changed history. The shuttle shook as it entered the thick green atmosphere of Valros. Yuna held onto her seat and tried to stay calm. She had traveled across 3 star systems to reach this planet. She was tired. She was nervous. But she could not show it. Yuna was not a soldier. She was not a scientist. She was a diplomat. Her job was to talk, to listen, and to find peace between people who did not trust each other. Today, her job was harder than ever before. Today, she had to make peace with the Velkai. The Velkai were not human. They looked like giant wolves that walked on 2 legs. They stood almost 8 feet tall. Their fur was thick and dark. Their eyes glowed like yellow fire. Their claws could cut through metal. For 50 years, humans and Velkai had been enemies. They had fought many battles. Many had died on both sides, but now, both sides were tired of war. The Velkai elders had agreed to meet with a human diplomat. They had asked for someone who was not a soldier, someone who did not carry weapons, someone who came in peace. The United Earth Council had chosen Yuna. She was young for this job, only 32 years old, but she had a gift. She could read people. She could understand their feelings even when they did not speak. She had helped end 3 conflicts on Earth before joining the space program. The council believed she was their best chance. The shuttle landed with a heavy thump. Yuna took a deep breath. She looked at herself in the small mirror on the wall. Her black hair was tied up neatly with a silver hairpin. It was a gift from her grandmother. She had worn it to every important meeting in her life. It made her feel safe. The door of the shuttle opened. Green light flooded in. The air smelled like wet leaves and something else. Something wild. Yuna stepped outside. The forest of Valros was like nothing she had ever seen. The trees were so tall that she could not see their tops. Their trunks were as wide as buildings. Strange birds flew between the branches, making sounds that echoed through the woods. The ground was soft and covered with blue moss dot, and there, waiting for her, were the Velkai. There were about 20 of them. They stood in a half circle around the landing area. Their yellow eyes watched her every move. None of them spoke. None of them moved. Yuna walked forward slowly. She kept her hands visible at her sides. She did not want them to think she was hiding anything. One of the Velkai stepped forward. He was older than the others. His fur was gray around his face. He wore a necklace made of bones and stones. This had to be the elder. "I am Taiho," he said. His voice was deep and rough, like rocks grinding together. "I speak for the Velkai of this forest." Yuna bowed her head slightly. I am Yuna. I speak for the humans of Earth. I thank you for agreeing to meet with me. Taiho did not bow back. He just stared at her with those burning yellow eyes. We did not agree because we trust you. We agreed because we are tired. Tired of burying our young. Tired of fighting an enemy we do not understand. I understand, Yuna said softly. We are tired too. For a long moment, no one spoke. The wind moved through the trees. The strange birds sang their songs. Then Taiho turned and began walking into the forest. Follow, he said. Yuna followed. The other Velkai walked behind her. She could feel their eyes on her back. She could hear their soft growls. They did not trust her. She did not blame them. They walked for a long time. The forest grew darker as the trees blocked out more and more light. Yuna had to be careful not to trip on the roots and rocks. The Velkai moved easily, like shadows flowing through the woods. Finally, they reached a clearing. In the center stood a great stone building. It was ancient. Moss and vines covered its walls. Strange symbols were carved into the stone. This was the meeting hall of the Velkai, but Yuna noticed something else. Around the edges of the clearing, hiding behind trees and rocks, were smaller Velkai, cubs. They were young, maybe only a few years old. Their fur was lighter than the adults. Their eyes were curious instead of cold. One of the cubs was braver than the others. He crept closer to Yuna, sniffing the air. His nose twitched. He had never smelled a human before. Minho, an adult Velkai, growled. Get back. The cub, Minho, jumped back and ran to hide behind a tree. But his eyes never left Yuna. She could see the questions in them. What was she? Why was she here? Was she dangerous? Yuna gave the cub a small smile. She wanted him to know that she meant no harm. Taiho stopped at the entrance of the stone building. The cubs are curious, he said. They have heard stories about humans. Stories of monsters who kill without honor, who burn forests and poison rivers. Yuna felt a pain in her chest. Those stories were not all lies. Humans had done terrible things in this war. So had the Velkai. That was why she was here. To end the cycle of hate. I hope to show them a different story, she said. Taiho looked at her for a long moment. Then he made a sound that might have been a laugh. Or it might have been a growl. Yuna could not tell. We shall see, he said. Come inside. The chieftain waits. Yuna followed him into the stone building. The inside was lit by glowing crystals set into the walls. The light was soft and blue. In the center of the room was a large stone table. Around it sat several Velkai, all of them old and important. Looking at the head of the table sat the largest Velkai Yuna had ever seen. His fur was pure black. His eyes burned brighter than the others. He wore armor made of some kind of dark metal. This was Hairpin, the chieftain of the Velkai. He did not stand when Yuna entered. He just watched her with those terrible bright eyes. So, he said. His voice was like thunder. This is the human who thinks she can end a war with words. Yuna stood tall. She did not let her fear show. Words are more powerful than weapons, chieftain. A weapon can only destroy. A word can build, or heal, or change everything. Hairpin leaned forward. Pretty words. But words did not save my sons when your ships burned our villages. Words did not bring back my mate when your soldiers killed her. The room went very quiet. Yuna could feel the hate coming from every Velkai in the room. They had all lost someone. They all had reasons to want her dead. But she also saw something else. She saw tiredness. She saw pain. She saw creatures who wanted the killing to stop, but did not know how to trust. I cannot undo the past, Yuna said quietly. I cannot bring back the dead. But I can help build a future
where no more mothers lose their children. No more children lose their parents. That is why I am here."
Hairpin stared at her for a long time.
The crystals flickered. The cubs outside made small sounds in the darkness. Then Hairpin sat back. "Speak then, human. We will listen. But know this, if your words are empty, you will not leave this forest alive." Una nodded. She had expected nothing less. She opened her mouth to begin. And that was when the hairpin slipped from her hair and fell to the stone floor with a clear, ringing sound. Everything changed.